Welcome to the Creative Warriors Podcast, the heart and soul of photography. I'm Ariel, Faith, your host. All right, we're welcoming back Erin Hogue. She is coming to us. You're coming from Canada, aren't you?
Yeah, from Canada.
So is it cold there now?
Today was cold. It depends on the day. I guess it was, like 10 degrees. And then today it was raining. So it was about 10 degrees again, which is, I think 60 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're talking Celsius, I'm afraid I'm clueless.
Yeah, it was 60. I think it was like 68. But then last week it was 105. So.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's kind of crazy. I call that bipolar weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Florida has that a lot. You know, it'll be 30, then it's 80, and you're like, anyway. Okay, so let's get down into it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk more about things that block photographers a lot and how you have overcome them, because I can't imagine, you might not have had some of these experiences, but share with us if you have, how you've overcome them and things like that. So one that a lot of people struggle with, especially females, I hear more than men, but men struggle with it too, is self-doubt or imposter syndrome. You know, when you're like, it's just, you don't think it's that good. And then you're afraid to submit it. Have you experienced any of that throughout your career?
All the time, even still, every day. I don't know if I haven't talked to or I'm trying to think. I don't know of any photographers that I've asked that don't feel that way anymore. But I feel like for me, that's just part of it. The only thing is that I try not to let it stop me. And if something that I'm doing isn't good enough, then I'll get a no instead of a yes. And so that's kind of, instead of not putting it out there, I just try to be more on the fence of or more think of it as either it's not good enough yet and I need to improve it so that it's good enough so that it gets a yes, or the timing was off, which is also fine. But I always feel like it's not good enough. Every time I submit to magazines, I was like, these are all horrible. No one's going to like them. And then I just submit them anyway. And it's not that they're like horrible, but I always want them to be better. Like I always wish what I was submitting, the job that I did for somebody, I wish that it was better, but I don't let that stop me. Okay. So now you did say earlier that your work years ago was horrible. So when you were doing your blog, you know, and you saw this progression of your work. So do you ever look back even to that point when you first started and see all the millions of things that you now get right? That you don't even have to think about? Yeah, I can see that the photos and my way of looking at things have improved, but I still always want them to be better, if that makes sense. But I think that's just how it is. I think I'm always going to want them to be better. And if I didn't, then I probably wouldn't do it anymore. Yeah, there's like is it a drive for you, or is it just a growth? Do you know what I mean? A difference between a drive and then it's more like you just like to grow. Yeah, I think it's both. There was one point in time where I was talking to a snowboarder, and snowboarders always put out a video part to show their snowboarding. And a snowboarder was asked what's your favorite? Do you feel like your favorite video part, or do you feel like this video part was so good? Are you 100% stoked on it? He's like, no, if I was 100% stoked on my riding and the video part that I put out, he's like, I probably wouldn't create another part because I would have reached the top of what I'm doing and that would be it. But he's like, I always see room for improvement. And so that's what gives me the motivation to then go out and create another video part, is that I haven't created my perfect part, where I feel like there's always something that I wish I had done better, or a shot that was better, or a trick that was better. Does that kind of make sense and kind of answer your question? Yeah, it does make sense. It's like the saying, there's, the biggest room in your house is the room for improvement. I haven't heard that one before, but that's that's really good. Yeah. But it's okay, right? Once you know that, we can't know everything. It's impossible. So I think that makes life more fun.
when you're not trying to be perfect or pretending, and you're just embracing the fact that there's a whole lot of things I still have to learn, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what makes life exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, has there ever been a time that I can't imagine this ever happening to you, but that you submitted something or you basically failed? So you submitted something and it was given like a really low score in a contest, or, you submitted some magazine stuff and they just are like, no, absolutely not. And then how did you cope with those emotions attached to that rejection?
I try not to have too much attachment to if it's a good response or if it's a bad response. And I think I kind of always go into something expecting it to be a no. And so there have been times, like there was one contest that I was in and I look back now and the guy that was running the contest was like, I don't think you're ready. And I was like, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for this. And I was not. And I look back at the contest and I'm so mortified that it went out into the world and it still exists on the internet, because it was a slideshow contest and it's the worst slideshow ever. I tried to put this really complicated concept together. It didn't translate at all. And everything about that contest, I did not do well. And through that, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm only going to do this again if I have a solid idea that's easy and translate. So I think I always sort of learn from it. And yeah, and I feel like those always happen and still, but I still will put things out into the world. And if they aren't received well, then I'll know it's time to stop. So there's one point in time where his Instagram was starting to become really big and I had shot the whole season and I didn't sell anything because I shot a bunch of stuff on spec. Nobody bought anything. Nobody wanted anything. No big jobs came in, like nothing for the whole year. And I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I think like this was my part in photography and it's done. And so I went and got another job. I think I got a job as like a banquet server because I was like, I need to figure out a new career. So this is where we're starting. As I figure out, I'm going to go back to school, get a master's, we'll figure something out. Right now I need money. So I got a job as a banquet server. And it was crazy because the next month I made an entire year's worth of income in that month. I had like won this like all these things happened. And so I feel like that's just kind of how it is being a creative. Like it's just a roller coaster. You're just going to have like tons of failures and then things will be going good for a while. And then you'll have a bunch of failures and then things will be going good for a while. And then you'll have a bunch of failures. And that's just how it is. So to not get too attached to them, I think is the only way that I found to be able to keep going.
Yeah, there's a good lesson in that. It is more like a riding waves, right? It's not a solid path that is straight. It definitely is up and down and around. And sometimes you're on a cliff and you don't know if you're going to survive. And other times, the birds are singing and the sun is shining.
Any creative, like any actress, any creative industry has that. And I feel like people who are in business have those same challenges all the time, where there's just failure comes with the territory.
Yeah. And, it's funny because a lot of people take business very, very personal. I mean, obviously, when you're creative, you are, because it is a part of your soul that's coming out on some level. So there is something personal, but business is not personal, right? So you can either be very good at business or very bad at business, but be very good at your craft.
Yeah.
So you could be super good at your craft, but horrible at business. And so you never make any money. Or you could, on the other way, you could do, everything right, but it's just bad timing. The economy's down or whatever, the things around you have no control over, just like you have no control over the weather when you go for a shoot, right? All of a sudden, all the snow dries up and we have, you're going to have to shift, right? And business is risk. So when business is risk, it's easier to take. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. And that's how I look at it too. Like your chances of not having it work out are really high. So if it doesn't work out, that's kind of how it is. And you can either kind of like figure out ways around that, or even whenever I'm looking to get a new project off the ground, I just assume that I'm going to get a bunch of no's and kind of hope for that one yes, and hope that and do everything I can to make sure to kind of avoid those things that are going to fail. And even if they do, trying to figure out how to make it up if there's other people that were involved or whatever. And just, yeah.
Yeah, you just grow based on the experience. And failure is how we all learn, really. We shouldn't be afraid of it. It's not a death sentence. It's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else. Do you have any? A lot of times I find creative people have blocks in their creativity where they're not feeling it. It's like work. It's like, for me, it's energy. And then there's sometimes I just don't have the energy because of something external. So is there a time when you've had, like, you just weren't feeling it and you pushed through it or took a break, or what do you do when you have those moments, or have you had those moments?
Yeah, I think everybody's had those moments where they're just not feeling as creative as other moments, or they're just not as into whatever the project is. I guess the way that I get over, I have a few different projects. So if I'm not, like, I love speaking, I love mentoring, I love doing those kinds of things. So if there's a point in time where I don't feel passionate about trying to make a photo shoot come together, I'll focus on one of those other avenues and it'll kind of come back around, if that makes sense. Or I'll just or I'll try and shoot something else, or just not get too attached to that feeling of whatever I'm doing. Because at some point too, like, you're not always gonna be, and I feel like you would be exhausted if you were always super passionate about everything that you're doing. I think that would also get really exhausting, but to kind of have some that you're kind of feeling more passionate about, and just understand there's going to be certain times where you're less passionate about it, and that's fine.
Right. Do you have anything that you do that, like, feeds your creativity? So is there, like, other people's work that you consume? Is there other types, like, completely unrelated of type of, books you read, or anything you feed yourself that kind of, like, if you're feeling creatively low, you just take the time to chill out at the beach, or, go for a walk in the woods, or, you know what I mean? Is there something that feeds you?
I think in the winter, the days that I'm not shooting, I usually go up and snowboard the mountains. So that kind of keeps that part of it going, because I'm still really enjoying that. And I usually try and create some sort of challenge for myself if I'm feeling that way. Like, I'll try and look at some sort of photo that would be really cool to shoot, and then try and figure out kind of a way to make that happen. Other times I'll try and assist another photographer, because I find doing that also kind of feeds your own creativity. Like, when you're seeing somebody else be really passionate about something, it kind of, I find, sparks my kind of creativity and passion, and it kind of brings that back. So kind of being able to work with other creative people and helping them out kind of brings it back.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that I've experienced but haven't really thought of. But sometimes taking the second role and watching the other person take the lead in a project, you just kind of see different things that you, as the lead, wouldn't notice, because you're trying to put it all together. Whereas when you're watching it, you learn from that experience.
Yeah.
Things you wouldn't necessarily have. It might not even be the way, you might not want to do it that way, but you just learn there are so many other ways of accomplishing the same thing. So it just adds to your, like, collection of stuff.
Yeah.
In your mind. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision relating to your photography career and how you navigated it? So was there ever a time when there was, like, a big hiccup? Well, you kind of described one earlier when you had no work You didn't get paid for a year. That's really a big one.
Yeah, no work was coming in for a while. You had, sorry, a hiccup. And what was the question?
Yeah, it's basically, was there ever a time where you had to make a difficult decision based on photography? And then how did you navigate it? It could be, some of the things you described would fit into that category. So, being on the road for a year, that's tough. Living out of a suitcase for a year, that's tough. It's also super exciting and you get to see all kinds of places, but it's still tough, right? So that was a decision you made, but it had struggles. Or it could have been the time when, similar to the time when you described earlier about, not getting paid for a year. That's a huge struggle because you got to hopefully had some savings to get you through it. But is there ever been anything in addition to that? Or can you describe how you navigated through that a little bit more?
Yeah, like navigating through when there's just like not work.
Yeah, when you're like really, this is tough. Like either you have to let go of something that you really love or you need to switch gears. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I guess
there is no wrong answer.
I'm trying to think of how I think I just try overall not to get too attached to certain things. And I think it's like getting over anything. I guess one way I would go about it is, so during that year where I was like trying things and they weren't working, is when those times happen, I usually will put my head down and I look at it as like kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Good analogy.
Is I try and just do anything that comes my way and try all these different things that I know I've wanted to try. And I'll kind of put my head down, get into a routine. Like I'll wake up in the morning, go to the gym and be like, okay, I'm going to do 8 hours of work today. And I'm just going to see what I can put time into. So whether that's trying to apply the content, trying to get grants, hitting up brands that I know, trying to do all those kinds of things. And I'll kind of look at it as like, I'm just not going to worry about all the things that aren't working. And I'm just going to keep like basically throwing spaghetti, like throwing things out there, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what eventually sticks and what works out. And if things don't work out, then I'll figure something out.
Yeah, 100% made sense to me. It's funny how, because in your experience that you shared with us, it was like when you were literally shifting gears because you needed to eat.
Yeah,
Not like it was a demanding need, but you just needed to eat. And that was when it all started. All that work you put in for that year, when you weren't seeing the benefits, came as like, somebody bigger than you saying, you know what? I don't want you catering. I don't want you working in that field. It's like, get back here.
Yeah. And the same thing kind of happened when COVID happened. Like all of my photo sales, everything disappeared overnight. And so I was like, I'm going to try this thing that I kind of want to try for a while. And the first time I tried it, to start online courses, I knew a couple things. I knew I didn't want it to just be a recorded course that lived online because I wanted to be able to actually work with people. And I knew that would be the way that they would get the fast results, is if there was a section of it that was live. And so that's kind of how it's structured, is that part of it's recorded and part of it's live. So I knew that I wanted to have that live thing. I didn't just want to be sitting at my computer trying to sell a course where I didn't actually get to see my students progress. And everybody needs a little bit of something different.
Yes.
When you're trying to reach their goals with their photography. And I had over 20 years of photography experience in all different areas of photography. So everybody needs something a little bit different. And so I knew that I wanted to have that say in it. And I knew nothing else about how to start an online course. And I find that sometimes things just kind of fall into place. Like I had something pop up on the internet that was a course about something totally different. And I signed up for that course. And then he taught me how to find out what people wanted to learn if I were to create a course. Because I also didn't know what people wanted to learn. And I didn't want it to be a course that didn't bring people value.
Right.
And so that fell into my lap. And then I had another friend that was starting some sort of like organizational business course. And she took a course on how to create courses. And so then I talked to her and she's like, you're not charging enough. Like, this is how you should structure it, so you're actually going to make money while you create this course. And so then I did that. And then since then, there's just been things that have fallen into my lap that have helped me grow. And I find that whenever you can have somebody else tell you how to do something, it's a lot easier to then do it yourself. So I guess the other thing is I usually take a course. Like whenever there's like a slow time that's happening, I'll take some sort of course to learn something. And I find that that really helps because it kind of shifts your mind. At least you're learning something and you're not just waiting for something to happen. And then if somebody's telling you how to do something, it's a lot easier. So then I took a course on how to do courses basically. And that was way easier than trying to figure it out on my own. And that's part of like what I put into the course. Like if I were starting out again, what are all the things that I would want to know starting out that held me up, that would block me, that would stop me? And how can I help other photographers not have those same challenges?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's so valuable because a lot of times, you have to invest in this, investing in education or getting a mentor or somebody who's ahead of you. You're not just paying for them to tell you things. You're paying for them to share how they overcame all their mistakes. They had 20 years of mistakes and now they know what those are or whatever. So, and they've got a system that works, or they have a process that works, or they have a technique that is worth learning. It might not be your style, but if you learn it, then you can, take the pieces you want. So, sometimes we think, it's more money. Definitely photography is not for the person that doesn't like to spend money, but as you well know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, anything in business, you kind of have to, like, even if you look at big corporations, like anybody that's making money doing something spends money on education or learning new things it just makes it so that you're able to do it easier.
And technology keeps changing. So you have to, algorithms change. Everything's moving. So if you're not at least moving with it, it gets a little cuckoo.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I even learned how to negotiate one, I learned part of it through working with snowboarders, and then part of it through a portrait photography course that I took. Because she covered how to negotiate and how to state your prices so that people actually want to pay them. And I didn't realize all of the psychology wrong at when I started that made it really hard for people to pay.
Yeah. All of those. I mean, it's such a valuable thing. I'm interested to learn what kind of classes you have. I'm going to have to check that out. You're going to share a little bit about that hopefully later, but yeah. One more question before this episode ends, and then we'll move on then we'll come back again. But can you share a personal experience or moment of inspiration that has influenced your approach to all types of photography? So something that was, I don't know, like an aha moment or a paradigm shifter for you that really helped you go forward with your work. Dun, dun, dun.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry. I'm trying to think of an aha moment that really impacted my photography in what way?
Well, and it influenced you in a profound way. That could be any way at all. It could be, it profoundly influenced the fact that you now look at every time you see the light coming through the trees, you smile, which makes your life happier, right? You see the little things, whereas everybody else just passes them by. It could be the fact that you learn to deal with failure. The aha moments are different for everybody.
That photography brought into my life.
Yes.
What you mean by shooting photography, kind of the aha moments that it's brought into my life?
Yeah. That help you with regular life.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was looking at it the opposite. So, there's so many things. I feel like one of them is just that, idea that you're always improving And I think that comes out in every area of my life. Like, you're always kind of like, if you don't get something right the first time, you can overcome the obstacles and like get it right the second time. So kind of always overcoming, and it can be any sort of like life obstacle that you're facing. Like, let's say something doesn't work out now, it might not be the right time and it'll come back around and work out later.
And there's always a course to take, right?
And there's always some way, like something you can learn that'll help make it work out.
And we have time. I like your attitude about time, because a lot of times we feel like if we don't get it done in a short period of time, then we failed, right? You have like this longer view of life that probably has helped you not try to do everything now.
Yeah. And I think I actually learned that, and I didn't even realize I learned that so my friend that was skateboarding across countries, we stopped, and we were stopping in all of these places across America. I don't even remember where we were at this point in time. But we were on a radio show, and then the host of the radio show invited us to her house afterwards. We were having dinner with her, and she was talking about her career. And she was like, yeah, I wanted to be this like really cool like DJ on the radio, doing all the, I don't know, she had some show that she really wanted to do at like the perfect time, where she was like the cool person that got to interview all the best bands. And I guess she must have traveled around with it a bit. And she's like, I knew that I wanted to do that. She's like, but now I'm a mom and I have kids. And so now I don't want to do that show at that station anymore. I want to do this show at my local station. I still get to do what I love and what I'm passionate about. But I did that. I did the crazy thing where I was traveling and I was meeting all the cool bands and I was doing all the cool things. And she's like, and I did it and I checked it off, and that was great. And I got that experience and I learned everything that I could from that thing. And now it's time to move on to this next thing. And that was her having a more balanced life, where she wasn't doing the like amazing show that everybody wants to do. That's the cool thing. She was working kind of at the local station, doing local things, but she was able to be there for her family. And that was kind of her new priority and the new thing that she now wanted to do.
Yeah, that's a good experience that you saw, because you saw it in action. You saw that
she even said it to us. She's like, yeah, do this while you're young, travel around while you guys are young. And then when your priorities change, like get it all out of your system so that when your priorities change, your life will change and you'll have done those things instead of not doing them, not getting the lessons that you're going to get from them, and not having those experiences.
Yeah. And then you have, so many people have regret in their life because they didn't do this, or they didn't take that chance, or they didn't whatever, right? And the more we can live our life without those, I mean, some of us have a whole bunch of oopses. So we've been reacting to life. So, you have to learn how to do that too, right? Because things happen that you don't have control over.
Yeah.
But learning to be happy no matter what where we are. And if we're not, finding it, creating it, learning to, okay, what can I find joy out of this situation, even though I might not like this spot? Because the one thing that is guaranteed is it will change.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that is
100%. You can guarantee it. Whether you love it, it'll change. Whether you hate it, it'll change. It just will. So you just hang on and do the best you can with what you got at the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And know that like most people, even the people that you think their life is working out perfectly and exactly how they want it to, there's always been moments for everybody where things just are harder than they feel. Like they are.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you again. We'll come back again and we're going to talk more about having a mindful heart and eye. And I will tell you what I mean by that when we get back. Thank you again.
Thank you.
One more question, Erin, before we go. Tell our audience where they can find you online and how they can learn more about your education and what you offer.
Yeah, so probably on Instagram. It's Erin Hogue is my Instagram. So it's just my last name, my first name. And in the links on there, they can find all the information about the courses. I run free workshops every now and then, so they can sign up for a free workshop. They'll get a taste of what the full course is all about. If they're interested in that, they can also just go to my website, which is also just my name, and that's where you can see more of my work. And then keep an eye out. I'm going to do some more conceptual fine art photography. So if you're more interested in that, you can go to hogueart.com or keep an eye on stuff's going to be changing.
Oh, cool. If you enjoyed this podcast, The Creative Warriors, the female heart and soul of photography, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going. Stay curious and have a happy artistic journey. Thank you for listening to the Creative Warriors podcast, the female heart and soul of photography. See you next episode.